Hi guys, and welcome to today's SEMrush webinar. And I'm joined by Mr. David Iwanow. Anton famously reminds me that I think the first time I introduced you was Iwanow or some. I don't even know.
No, Iwanow is actually correct, but it was a little bit further from that. But yeah, you remembered my name. That's a good point.
Yeah, that's always good. But yeah, so we're on today, and we are going to be talking about the Traffic Jet tool on SEMrush. And as usual with the Toolbox webinar, I'm going to give you a brief overview of how to use the tool as such. Just how to put in your details, and then we're going to talk to David about more in-depth stuff, and David's got a presentation for us. But while we are just allowing people to come into the chat, just give us an idea of where you're from. Give us a hello. I'm in sunny Glasgow. David's in even sunnier Amsterdam. Olesa, good to see you. But David, how are things in Amsterdam? I know we were talking just off air there. Things are slightly different than what I'm suffering from in Scotland. We're super strict on it. But how are you coping and surviving with the lockdown?
So here it's fairly chilled. The government's taken a very much a hands-off approach. So we're ordering burgers. They're going to get here in about an hour and 15 minutes. So takeaways and stuff are open. I think the Dutch are fairly good at keeping the social distance. So we went out to the park today for a picnic, and you could see there were people keeping their distance. I think also smaller population, similar to Scotland.
Yeah.
The chaos that it might be in some of the bigger cities. But yeah, it's changed things, and I think part of it is people aren't willing to maybe sacrifice a little bit of their free time to try and flatten the curve and reduce the strain on the medical system. So yeah, we're doing our part. I think I've been working from home now for 10 weeks. So it's just part of life now. And yeah, like you said, sometimes it's a bit stressful having a family stuck in the same house, but it allows things to continue, particularly with the digital world. We have a lot more time to do these types of events because we're not stuck in traffic or traveling 1 or 2 hours each day to the office. And today's public holiday, so.
Yeah. Oh, really? Bloody hell.
Yeah, that's why I went to the park today. I'm not that bad an employee.
I think ours is Monday, public holiday here in the UK. But happy holidays if you are on your holidays, everyone. And there's a lot of different people: Canada, London, Lake George, Istanbul, Philadelphia, Johannesburg. Yeah, there's a lot of different people in there, and India as well. So good to see people from all over joining us today. And what we will do is I'm going to just dive in and start sharing my screen and just give you a brief overview. This is not going to take a huge amount of time because the tool is an automated way of doing your paid advertising. So a lot of it is automated, but I'll show you all the different options just by sharing my screen just now. Share. And can you guys see the screen okay? Oh, wrong screen. Yeah, all good. So the tool is called Traffic Jet. Now, where you find it, and I've tried it out and stuff like that, but I didn't actually realize it was up the top navigation bar here. And the reason for that is it does have a different billing system to SEMrush. Also, something worth noting is that the Traffic Jet tool is available to free or paid subscribers. So even if you don't have a SEMrush account, you can still take advantage of the Traffic Jet tool if you do sign up for a free account. Make sure that you are aware of that. But Traffic Jet, I'm just going to click on it. That's where you'll find it at the top navigation bar. And before I go into showing you the kind of campaign setup, I'm just going to go through some FAQs with that's already on here anyway, but I just want to go through some general information. So how do you choose the right cost per click and monthly budget? What do you need to spend on this tool first and foremost? SEMrush have given you a monthly guide depending on your niche, what you're going to have to spend. Anything between $500 and £1,000 is always a good start if you're going to play around with it. What type of ads do we run on here, and how can you check these? So you can use the ad creatives that you provide, or you can have SEMrush, and this is the best part of this tool. If you're lazy like me, you can get this tool or the engine to generate the ads for you. That's what I like. So I had a try of it and allowed the system to do it for me, and it worked out well. So when will your traffic start to grow? So when you start a campaign, it does have an approval time, which is normally 24 to 48 hours, and then they will start getting you more traffic using this. Now, people are always going to be curious as to the quality of this traffic. What's involved? What's the quality like? So it's a fully automated system, and the engine is collecting data from the best, to find the best marketing channel for your website. Now, bear in mind, SEMrush has access to tons and tons of data, and because of the sheer volume of data they've got, they're able to use that data to optimize and give you the kind of best, most targeted ads. Because bear in mind, SEMrush can see, tons of paid campaigns and what channels are working best and everything else. What is the difference between a click and a visit? I think we all understand the difference between those. Some other stuff. How many locations can you target? You can target up to 4 different locations, but you can create different campaigns for different countries. That's what they recommend. What websites can you promote? You can pretty much promote everything other than the usual adult content, inappropriate, gambling, political content and whatnot. What are the sizes of the banners? You can look at all that stuff there. How do I link my Google Analytics? Should be fairly easy. How do you suspend a campaign? Are there any requirements for UTMs? You can track all that kind of stuff. Where can you see your conversions? There's a whole bunch of stuff in here. And that will answer all of your questions here in terms of the basics of what the tool does and doesn't do. But to go in and set up a campaign is very simple and very easy. You've got your nice, very simple dashboard here, and there's only really one button here, create campaign. So you're going to have your campaign name, call it whatever you want, test 1. Landing page URL, SEMrush.com, just as an example. Now, UTM, you can basically put a UTM in here if you want to. You don't have to do that. And you then below here, you can put in awareness. What is the objective of the campaign? Is it to raise awareness or try to sell a product or get conversions? You select the one that suits you. And you can put on the campaign period. It's up to yourself what you want to do. Obviously, the SEMrush are recommending that you use it for a month. And that is what I would suggest that you would do as well, because trying it over a day or two, with what I had, I tried it with $100 and it wasn't enough money to see what worked and what didn't. You have to do it over a prolonged period of time. Now, in terms of targeting options, you can target people based on devices. So you can select or deselect the devices. I'm pretty sure for most businesses, you will have users who are primarily on all of these devices. But if you feel that people don't buy a lot on desktop or whatever, you can eliminate that. Targeted locations. Now, each campaign can have up to 4 locations. United Kingdom, United States, outlying islands. You could have India, and you could have I'm trying to think of someone, Germany or Munich, Bavaria. You can go into that kind of level of targeting. Budget. Now, if you go back, you'll depending on your niche, they're suggesting that you use anything between $500 and $1,000, and you can select your budget here. Just put £500 in for an example. Cost per click, you can leave this to be fully automated, and SEMrush will automate that process. You can go in and do it manually, but again, if you're going to use an automated AI-based advertising campaign, then you probably want to keep the campaign on auto. That's just my opinion anyway. Now, special instructions. If you read here, it will say you can have any special notes that you would want to pass on to your account manager. So if you've got any kind of customization requests or anything else that you feel is really important for the campaign, put it in the comment section here. And that will be looked into by the account people. Now, down at the bottom, purple button, just click next step. Whoops. I didn't put that in. And I'll just put a random start date in. Sorry, guys. 27th to the 31st. Next step. Oh, just one. Next step. Now, that takes you to, so there's different steps here. There's 3 steps to setting this up. First one is really easy, as you've just seen. Step 2 is the creatives. Now, automatic generation of creatives is only available for English language sites. For non-English sites, you need to upload the creatives manually. So you can select you want to upload your own, and it will give you the sizes, and you can put in your headline and everything else down there at the bottom, as you can see. However, lazy guys like me, I want to make sure that these are automatically done, being the lazy guy that I am. So save and go to the next step. And you can connect your analytics and your Facebook to the campaign as well. And, you know, the more data and the more connections to these things, the better. And then down at the bottom, you simply click Start Campaign, and that will be submitted to SEMrush, and as they said, it takes 24 to 48 hours to approve the campaign, and then the system starts to work. Now, I tested it with $100. I would not suggest that you try $100. I think that you're going to have to do what SEMrush are advising, and try it out with 500 or $1,000. Now, if I forgot to mention earlier, if you do have questions in terms of, you know, where does this stuff, you know, where does SEMrush get the inventory come from and all that kind of stuff, there are SEMrush customer success people in the live chat who are able to answer the tool specific questions. But what I'm now going to do is allow David to come in and do his presentation, and after that, we will have questions and answers, and you can ask us about the tool, you can ask us about paid advertising, you can ask us about whatever you want, and we will do that probably for the last 15-20 minutes of the webinar. But for now, I'm going to pass you over to Mr. David Iwanow, and he is going to give us some juicy information and go a bit more in depth on paid advertising.
Hello everyone. So yeah, so what Craig's already covered off, what I'm going to try and do is explain some of the things in much more detail and give you some of my experience on particular steps to things to try and get a bit more out of your campaign. So the first step, who am I? So I've been doing search for around about 13 years across various verticals. I've been doing paid advertising, I've been doing Facebook ads, link building, content marketing, technical SEO, analytics, I've kind of done it all. So I've got a fairly good idea in terms of what's possible, but also where companies often fail. Who am I? So I'm the Global Search and Traffic Manager for Danone. I'm based in Amsterdam, the Netherlands. And here's a lovely shot back when we could travel of me in Singapore in beautiful sunshine. So basically, who does TrafficJet suit best? So I think the key thing around TrafficJet, it's not going to be suitable for everyone. But again, what Craig covered off, if you're very busy or you're time poor or you don't have the experience internally, it's a great tool for this type of business to basically allow you to run digital marketing without needing an expensive agency or huge overheads. It's a way to simply buy targeted traffic to your website without having to worry about too much of the other stuff. But again, if you're very comfortable running Google Ads, it may not be the platform which is suitable for you because you don't have the same control functionality you have within Google Ads. So again, TrafficJet is great if you just want to get a campaign up and running. At a later stage, when you start to learn more about it or you have more resources, then you can look at starting running some of the direct campaigns, whether directly with Facebook or Google Ads. But the thing about it, as Craig showed, you can get a campaign in TrafficJet up and running in a couple of minutes. It's probably going to take you longer than that to actually log into Google Ads. So basically, as I said, you can launch a campaign in a few minutes. So what Craig's already gone through, and again, it's important to make sure that you don't skip any steps because one is, as Craig saw, that it won't be allowed to launch the campaign, but you can often overlook a couple of points. So the first thing is obviously when you're naming your campaign, make sure it's something that's detailed and you can understand what it's about. Again, when you're running a campaign, it's best practice would be you'd be testing various landing page URLs. So if you're running a web shop, you might test buying them to the homepage, which is not usually advised, versus buying them directly to a category page or buying through to your services page. So when you're trying to decide what should be a landing page URL, I would typically advise to make sure it's a deeper part of your site that's much more relevant to your users, so visitors, and much more likely they can actually perform an action, such as contacting or purchasing. Again, the UTM source, you want to make sure it's something very simple. I use just TrafficJet. Objective, again, you get two types of objectives. Awareness is basically buying traffic for your site, get as many clicks as possible, versus conversion, which is basically, it relies on the Google Analytics integration. So not all websites can have a conversion-based campaign, but if I was going to recommend campaigns, I would say try to make sure you're running a conversion-based campaign, because the advantage of that is, one is you get a better return on investment, but also this information is fed back into the SEMrush machine learning platform, and it can optimize for clicks that are much more likely to generate a conversion, which makes you money. So it's a very important thing when you're running these types of marketing campaigns. You want the best return on investment as possible. So yeah, if you can, make sure you set up a conversion-based campaign, but you will need to integrate with analytics, and you will need to make sure goals are set up within your Google Analytics account. Again, targeting options, again, what Craig's already touched upon, this is basically, you know your visitors. So if a majority of visitors are basically mobile users, you might have a better return on investment just running a mobile ad. If your website's not great for mobile experience, considering just running desktop advertising. But where possible, try to do city level targeting. And again, there's a nice little pun here, a Target store in the US, but you're going to get much better results if you're doing targeting based on the particular area where you service or where you make most of your money, rather than trying to capture everything. So again, the campaign sample that Craig set up, if you're targeting Munich and you run local tours, that's likely to give you a far better return on investment than if you target everyone in Germany. So where possible, try to make sure you do city level targeting to get the best return on investment. Again, you know, when you go through set up your campaign, it's a good idea to set up budget. As Craig showed in the help guide, they already give you a breakdown of the guidance of what the spend should be, but also SEMrush has a nice little calculator on the TrafficJet homepage. So if you're not sure what your awareness, if your campaign's awareness or conversion based, they can actually give you a fair bit of feedback here. So yeah, so I would say if you're not sure how much you should be setting aside, play around with their traffic calculator, and then that can give you a better guidance on how much you should be spending. Again, when the campaign information, this is basically where you specify if there's anything you know about your campaign that you want the SEMrush account manager to take into account when it's setting up your campaign. So this might be, negative keywords. This might be particular brands that you don't want to bid on. So yeah, try and give some special instructions in there. What I did in my campaign, I advised them to switch off the Google Display Network by default. So I would say when you're running a traffic jet campaign, the best off is to start with just search. And then once you get data, once you get comfortable, once you start getting a good return on investment, then start up a second campaign focused purely on Google Display Network only. Yeah, so I say it's basically, you think about evolution of search. Start very simple, keyword only, text-based ads. Then when you're comfortable with return on investment, you're making money, then move on, set up a new campaign focused purely on the Google Display Network. As sort of covered previously, option to use auto-generated ads or upload your own. I would say look at doing upload your own if you can. Again, if you've been running advertising in the past, it should be a very simple thing for you. They have all the requirements there. They have the maximum size. They have the amount of headlines, the descriptions, if you want to use images. But I do say when you're running ads, aim for at least 2 to 3 variations. Typically, if you run too many variations, you're probably not going to get the results to kind of make a decision. But yeah, definitely look at running 2 to 3 variations of any ads within your site, and make sure they are different enough that you can actually easily identify as a consumer. So maybe it's free shipping, maybe it's free gift for every second order. So yeah, you want to make sure you're running multiple variations to get the best return on your campaign as possible, as well as make sure each of the ads has a different enough that the users will actually substantially change their click behaviors. The other one around the setup of the Facebook, the analytics integration. So you need to connect with your Facebook account so they can run Facebook ads on your behalf through your account. So that's a requirement. If you want to run Facebook ads, you need to make sure the Facebook Connect is enabled, and analytics strongly recommended that you run this because machine learning will actually feed back into its system the results of the visitor based on your analytics performance. So if you want a very good, well-run campaign with a good return on investment, make sure both of these things are enabled. Other boring things, make sure you set up your billing details. Again, the campaign is typically reviewed within sort of 24 to 48 hours. If you have a lot more special instructions, it may take a bit longer. If you're in Pawn's Bills Casino, you may find your ad is declined. But don't panic. If it takes more than 48 hours, it could be the fact that your campaign, as I said, takes a little bit more work to set up because the amount of special requirements that you've actually requested. Also, it typically takes their machine learning platform around 2 weeks to start to build a good traffic profile of what keywords and websites work best for you. So don't panic. As I said, that's what Craig talked about early on. Make sure you've got enough budget in your account to make sure they can build a decent amount of data to make sure the campaign can continually improve. Again, the boring things, but the things which most people are interested about, the campaign reporting. So the great thing about SEMrush is it's very simple. So if you look within Google Ads, I think there's about 300 or 400 different data points you can report on. Most of these don't really care about. So they provide the top level stuff: visits, pages visited, visit duration. And again, if you have set up conversion-based campaign, they have the conversion information. Also with the traffic split from the devices. So very simplified reporting. If you are uncomfortable running, ads through Facebook or Google Ads by yourself, Traffic Jet is a good platform to start on. And again, a very simple overview of the campaign based on day. So this is a snapshot of my analytics account of the campaign which I was running. So again, we get the source, which is TrafficJet, so I know where it came from. We get information on the bounce rate, page views, time on site, and if I've got any goals set up. You can also look at information such as which particular cities perform best for you, and you can feed this back to your account manager. So this campaign is targeting the UK, and it could be the case that I said, well, I've actually found my visitors from Birmingham are actually performing much better than visitors from Manchester. Can we look at disabling the geographic targeting? So use your analytics data to identify which types of visitors are performing best and feed this back to your account manager. Again, boring things, billing, again, is very simplified, but there is all this information broken down into your TrafficJet account. So yeah, so it's a bit more of an overview of sort of what Craig went through. And again, it's not really anything like it's crazy to run a campaign on TrafficJet. If you don't have the time resources to run Google ads or Facebook ads, I think TrafficJet is an interesting thing to play with.
Yeah, I think it's a new tool, something else to try out, and another way of trying to get traffic. I wanted to highlight one thing. There was a chap in the chat asking me to go over why I only spent $100 and what were the results of that. Now, before we bear in mind, guys, straight after this, we'll go into questions and answers, and it doesn't have to relate to TrafficJet specifically. It can be anything at all that you want to pick our brains about. But yeah, so on the campaign that I'm referring to, I'm just going to share my screen. Just give me a second. What I've done, and I'm pretty sure lots of you will be able to relate to this, when I was asked by SEMrush to have a test of TrafficJet, I'm like, oh man, a new tool, let's do it. Let's see what happens. Now, what I'd done was put $100 in, and I spread it out over a 14-day period. And as David said in his presentation there, it's probably going to take around about 2 weeks worth of data to optimize and figure out what is best for me. Now, for $100, now I didn't set up any conversion tracking. I basically wanted to just raise awareness of my blog and my podcast and everything else. So for the $100, I got 136 visits, 124 clicks, and probably was sending people to the wrong page and stuff like that. So mine was just a loose, crazy campaign. Now, obviously, there's not enough data in there, because what you'll see is SEMrush start getting me traffic and then realize I've got a crap budget and they can only really get me a little bit of traffic each day up until the 25th of May. So what I can establish from that, though, is a lot of the stuff came from mobile. But again, it's still not enough for me to decide whether I would switch off a desktop or a tablet. But being the tight Scotsman that I am, $100 was not enough for me to come out of here saying, here is some great data, here is some great ideas, and this worked really well for me. And obviously, it's now up to me to decide to allocate better budget to it and track the conversions and stuff like that, because sorry, Chapette, Mendo Digital, Chapette, I do apologize, I said chap. So shouldn't be making assumptions, it's never good, never get it right. But yeah, so I basically didn't really give any thought. I just threw $100 at it to see what would happen, and obviously I got clicks, I got traffic from it, didn't have the longevity, didn't give it a full-on month as SEMrush are recommending. So how much did you chuck at it, David, out of curiosity?
I think this campaign is 100. Initially, it was going to look at a $200 budget, but decided to run 100 for one page. And yeah, again, the engagement is similar to other channels, so I guess that was good for me. In terms of there wasn't a massive variance in terms of the amount of time on site, page view, all that kind of stuff. It was a bit lower initially because we're running the Google Display Network. So that's where we, again, use the analytics data. We contact them and say, look, switch off the Google Display Network for now. And yeah, things kind of started returning to normal. But yeah, I started looking into some of the geo reports. So was there particular cities in the UK which seemed to have a high level of conversions? Because basically I was buying traffic through to one of my travel articles, which is basically a travel guide to Sicily. So yeah, so I think that's where things probably, again, bigger budgets help. But if you can start to identify if there's particular regions in the UK or even in Europe that are getting better engagement. So if you would set up the conversion tracking and you identify these particular actually sign up for your newsletter, this is where I think this platform is kind of good because you can double down on this. But yeah, again, that's where conversion tracking is important.
Yeah, and I think obviously being able to track where your money's been spent is a wise move. And I think Nancy Reagan in the chat there, Nancy, I know I've spoke to her offline before. She was asking, do you just pause your AdWords and try this stuff out, or what do you do? I think you've got to track it and test it, and like anything, test it properly and track those conversions. That's where I went wrong. I was just trying to raise awareness of a podcast that I had launched, and driving traffic to that podcast, I've no doubt in my mind. For the $100, I got 124 clicks. So it does drive traffic, it does work, and hopefully, if I had thrown more budget at it, it would have been optimized, and I would have got a lot more bang for my buck had I done it over a prolonged period of time with a more realistic budget. That's what I would say. But if you're selling products or bookings like you do, Nancy, in terms of your spa, then you're able to track things a lot more than the likes of me. Podcast downloads and all that kind of stuff is just really hard to kind of track as such. But yeah, try it out, and I think that's the key part. Is what you're saying, David, is it does drive traffic, and I think anyone out there wants to try different sources of traffic as well, because we're all doing the same old AdWords and the Facebook ads and the various other things, but we're doing it and we've not got loads of data. And we're, the great thing about SEMrush is they've got access to a ton of data, which should hopefully give us a bit more bang for our buck on that. But yeah, that's just my opinion on it. But
which was raised is basically, should you be running your Google ads and Bing ads at the same time? So I would say not. If you are running a test with Traffic Jet, I would say pause those for now. I would look at comparing the two sort of side by side. That's where it also helps to set the right campaign tagging. But yeah, I wouldn't be trying to run the two at once, because you might also be competing with yourself and pushing up your cost per clicks.
Wise words. So yeah, guys, make sure if you've got questions, we start asking them now in the live chat. It can be related to Traffic Jet, it can be related to paid ads, it can be related to whatever you want to talk about, because we've got 25 minutes left. So you can grill.
Actually, Craig, I'm just looking at some of the analytics data here.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I think it's important when you're running a campaign to make sure you are looking at your analytics properly, because you can start to identify, particular cities in the UK which actually are much more engaged. So if I was going to look to, increase this campaign and put more budget behind it, as I said, it may be best not to focus on London, because some of these other websites are actually showing much more engaged visitors. Obviously, 1 or 2 data points is not great, but you can see if I'm targeting Birmingham, it's actually going to be a slightly better result than if I was targeting Bournemouth. And again, this is where whenever you're running any campaign, no matter what it is, you need to be drilling into your analytics. You need to be working out what's working, what's failing, and change it. Because I think that's probably sometimes the things where people fail, where you launch a marketing campaign, digital obviously, and you're like, we're not really happy with the results. Whereas you should be constantly tweaking and improving things. And if you identify particular countries or cities aren't performing, just cut them. it's not a competition to feel liked. You want to run the best possible campaign for the best return on investment possible. If you're not making money from people from London, cut them from your campaign.
Yeah, makes total sense. But on to the questions. Watch Tech. I'm not even going to try and say your surname. Apologies, Watch Tech. What is the best tool or channel to promote alcohol or gambling websites, or best platform to promote those? Obviously, you're not allowed to use those on TrafficJet, but what would you suggest if you were forced to enter that niche, David?
I mean, email. They can't really do too much around email marketing. So yeah, I think it's the case that it gets difficult around alcohol because, again, it depends on are you actually selling the product? Are you promoting the product? So I think if you are doing e-commerce, it can be a bit easier in some networks to run those types of ads. But if you're just purely trying to say, drink, Bundaberg rum, you may get those ads flagged. But if you're trying to actually sell Bundaberg rum, I think sometimes the e-commerce ads can work. But yeah, I would say probably email or this crazy thing, SEO.
Yeah, I entered the niche once, and it was the e-cig business, and I just dived in 2 feet first. Didn't realize that you couldn't really do any kind of paid advertising around it, which was a pain in the backside. And PayPal were the only people that were prepared to take payments for it as well. So if you are going to jump into a niche, it's sometimes wise to check those kind of things out. But I think SEO is your best bet, and as David said, good old email marketing. A lot of people think email marketing is dead. I think email still work very, very efficiently. And it's one of the oldest kind of methods of marketing there is. But yeah, I think it's still going strong. So a good suggestion there. But Watch Tech saying this is for an e-commerce website.
So there are Google shopping ads for alcohol. They are running, but again, that depends on your country. So it's a delicate one because it can also be the situation, and this is why I think paid channels are sometimes a delicate creature, because you could be running them today and it just takes one account manager to look at your ads in more detail and shut them down. And we're talking about generally across networks. If the network has said you're not allowed to run these ads and you find a workaround, it's a matter of time before they shut it down.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say try and build a list, an audience, create good content, and then sort of market through those channels. So, while you can't promote a lot of those things, maybe even speak to your account manager at SEMrush and say, look, we want to build up a list of recipes. So, great rum cocktails. And that's basically what we choose to do. It's then the discretion of the SEMrush whether that falls under their terms and conditions or not. So yeah, I would say be very open with your account manager when you put the special comments and put those in detail, and it's up to them to actually review it in detail. But yeah, if they have said it's not allowed, there's no point kicking and screaming about it. It's just you have to explore other channels. So use the SEMrush toolkit, identify where there's gaps in content opportunity, and build out an SEO play.
Perfect. Guys, if you do enjoy what we're saying, please do give the video a like. Next question is Nancy Regan. This has to do with the keyword magic tool. Is there a click percentage for the volume? I'm researching a very low volume business keyword and trying to determine the best click-through phrases.
So I'm assuming she's talking about which of those phrases are more likely to get a response. Is that correct, Nancy?
Let us know if that's correct, Nancy, and then we'll come back to that one. I'll just, while Nancy's going to reply to that, I'll jump on to the next one. How important do you think Google My Business is to an SEO strategy?
Well, if you have a local business, You know, if you're a global consumer company selling yogurt in 100 different countries, it's not as important. If you're a shoe repair shop, it's very important. So yes, I think Google My Business is very good, but if you do set up a Google My Business, make sure you put proper photos in, make sure you respond to reviews. So it's not the matter of just spinning up a Google My Business page, you need to do something with it. As I said, you need to be regularly adding new images, responding to reviews, even adding 360 videos if appropriate. But for a local business, very, very important. It can be a third, I've even seen up to 80% of a business's traffic come from these channels.
Yeah, very, very much, you know, any local business should be using that, in my opinion, as well. So, but back to Nancy's question on the keyword magic tool, you were correct in your assumption, David. That is exactly what Nancy's trying to do. Any advice on that?
I mean, the only advice which I advise to any of my markets is basically run a test. Pick a handful of those keywords and just run them in Google Ads campaign, or maybe even Traffic Jet. Yeah, so I think how to start a spa business or how to own a business. I would say testing is the only way to do it accurately, because I have seen some keywords which I assume had a very low commercial relevance actually perform okay in Google Ads campaigns. So yeah, I would say it's a matter of adding them in, running a campaign, and then identifying which one. And again, this is where the conversion metric is very important. Which one had the best click-through rate, but also the best conversion? Because I have seen keywords in the past that have a 5, 10, 15% click-through rate, only have a 1% conversion rate. So you want to kind of do the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Oh, Omi's there. What's Omi doing? Omi be out in the sun or in the garden doing his push-ups. Hey, Omi.
Good to see you, Omi. So we'll go on to Omi's question anyway. He was next on the list. How do you measure SEO success?
Wow. I think it's the branded merchandise. No, I think it's basically, are you making money from it? Your SEO is successful if you're making money. So if SEO is 5-10% of your website traffic and you're making money from it, I think that's fine. So I think the core metric is SEO working for you. Is it profitable? If it's not profitable, then I would say it's not a success.
Yeah, I think that's the only way. I think other people obsess over different things and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, we're all here to make money and as much of it as we possibly can from our businesses. So it's the best metric is money, in my opinion. So next, Matt B, will tool pull in e-commerce data?
Quickly, back to Nancy's topic.
Yeah.
The other thing is you could potentially look at Search Console data if you've already got content up. That might be a good way. Some of the things we have done in the past is try to do some mapping. So, if it's a how, what is the click-through rate? Is the if, what is the click-through rate? So if you have some existing data, you could start to build a very basic model.
All of these little tips are good for people to hear. Everyone's got different ways of looking at it, and but she has no content yet. She's just building a spreadsheet. She's saying in the chat there, but I'm sure, Nancy, you are a person that does things and takes action. So yeah, just do what you've got to do and try a few different things out, as David says, and I'm sure you'll get some degree of success, and then it's just refining it from there on in.
Okay, she's looking at SERP placements.
Yeah.
There's various click-through rate reports out there, but I've run sites where I've got an 85, 95% click-through rate. So it depends on the strength of your brand. If you're a brand that's used by, 1 and 2 people, in a country, you can basically have those, 95% click-through rates. So I think there's some general data out there, and I think there might be some studies. I think SEMrush did a while ago, so there's a chance that SEMrush might share out 1 or 2 case studies on this topic. But yeah, it varies by market and industry, varies by time of day, varies by platform. Sorry, we messed down Matt's question, didn't we?
Yes, we didn't. So I'm not sure. Will Tool pull in e-commerce data for conversions besides just goals from GA?
I don't think it does yet. Does advanced e-commerce? It's something you can request to the SEMrush team, but I don't think it yet. But yeah, that's a question for the specialist. The site I tested on didn't have e-commerce enabled, but it should be possible to connect to that. You just have to check if that's yet available.
Cool. And Omi Sido says he follows David and Craig everywhere they go. Mega thread people stick together. But I've got a question for you, David. Guys, if you've got any other questions, get them in the live comments. So we're obviously talking about buying traffic here. What other places are you finding you can get good traffic buys from? People are using Facebook, Quora ads, and all that kind of stuff. Is there any others that you're seeing any success with that are maybe not as out there as some of the other ones?
I mean, the Google Display Network can be a bit hit and miss, and it's not so much the limitations or issues with how the traffic tool is set up. I think there's so many websites out there set out to scam Google for AdSense revenue.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's why I think, of the results in the past, I've found the Google search partners it gives you reach. So again, if you want awareness, you want reach, great. But from a conversion point of view, the Google Display Network has not always been as good. The only way I've found the Google Display Network has been worked well. And again, these are things you put in the comments. I've specified, obviously did some manually through the Google Ads console, where I wanted to do my placements. So I didn't allow the machine learning to do it. I knew I wanted placements on these newspapers, on these particular forums, and yada, yada, yada. So you can use SEMrush to identify what websites your competitors are visiting.
Yeah.
And you can basically say, I want to make sure I can target people who are going to those websites because I know they're going to my competitors.
Yeah.
And the search partners, again, it's, if you've enabled Google Site Search within your blog and you monetize with AdSense, I can't always trust the quality as to where it needs to be.
Yeah. No, fair enough.
Apparently, Jerry's on your team for some reason.
Yeah, Jerry.
No, Jerry, I had a bit of a go cutting my own hair. Then my wife tried to fix it. So at least I've still got hair. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, don't cut yours like mine. Mine's is struggling to grow back in. So yeah, I just took a crazy day and just took clippers to it. So yeah, don't do that, David, because I'd pay good money for hair like yours, to be honest, mate. So yeah, don't knock it. But good to see you there, Jerry. Guys, we still have 11 minutes left, so if you've got any other questions, it can be anything related to anything at all digital marketing, let us know in the chat there. Also, make sure if you've watched the video that you do like the video and subscribe to the channel. But David, other than Traffic Jet, and in fact, we've got a question here. Traffic Jet Creative, can you speak more about the creative step? I come from a traditional creatives director's background. Is the creative step about actual creative communication development?
So yeah, it's when you talk about creative, you're talking about the actual images within the your campaign. So it's something that if you come from a creative background, you know which types of banners are more likely to get a better response, which color schemes are more likely to get noticed. So yeah, so I think that's sort of more around that point. If that sort of answers the question. So it's actually the visuals that the consumers see.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you're running types of banners, make sure there's a proper call to action. A lot of the times there'll just be a message, and maybe a bit vague, like, make sure when you're running your creatives, it's not like click here. It's not going to cut through the noise, because typically when it comes to display campaigns, if you can get a 1 or 2% click through rate, it's amazing. Usually you're looking at maybe 0.01%. So you really want to make sure your creatives resonate with your target audience. Well, another question is,
Zippity, what is the best way to use SEMrush to understand the biggest impact changes to make to increase traffic? What are the top priority changes to make? Is there a specific screen or tool for this?
There is the Market Explorer. So I would say definitely, if you haven't had a chance to play around with the Market Explorer, it's probably one of the coolest things on there. I'm going to try and see. I'll put Amazon in there for a change. So again, you will need a paid account to access the Market Explorer. But basically, what it does, it aggregates all the SEMrush data into one kind of dashboard. So a lot of things you've typically had to go to 3 or 4 different places. Look at which competitor is growing the quickest, which competitor has the biggest reach. It puts it all in a nice, simple dashboard. So I would say the one tool which I have had a fair bit of fun playing with is the Traffic Explorer. So here we are now. So we're looking at Amazon, the market's the US. So we're looking at who are the game changers. And again, if you're not sure, you can mouse over, it gives you more information. And hopefully I just didn't click that. Yes, I clicked that, of course I did. So you can see when it comes to, Rakuten, Amazon Japan, Mercari, they're some of the players which are doing things better. They're standing out from the pack. They're potentially growing faster than some of the others. So yeah, so I would definitely say, so here we go. Sorry, I just had to load. So they've got 137% growth. Or you can look at who are niche players. So if you wanted to, I don't want to go head to head with Amazon, but I want to dominate, USB cables. You can look into here. You can see who are the niche players. Again, you also get the traffic growth data, you get the traffic volume, and you can kind of see who's the established players. You also get information on what's their breakdown of traffic. So you can see, what's their strategies. Are they getting most of their traffic from direct or referral? And what's that traffic happening over time? So yes, I would say Traffic Jet is, that's what we're doing. Market Explorer is pretty cool because you can start to identify, in terms of, are they doing a lot of work in paid social? Are they doing a lot in referral traffic? Are they getting a lot of direct traffic? Are they doing a lot of getting a lot of traffic around search? So yeah, I would say definitely play around with Market Explorer. Yeah, it's probably one of the most used tools that I'm playing with right now.
I think what a lot of people don't do out there is probably don't use SEMrush to its full potential. There is so much, information on there, and I think there's 40 plus tools on there to be able to dissect all of this data. And loads of people will say, "Oh, I didn't realize that was a tool," or "I didn't realize it was there." So I think SEMrush, are rolling out constantly different things. Is there anything else that you're currently playing with, David, though, that would help people, that maybe people are not fully aware of in SEMrush? Because I do this Toolbox webinar, once a month or whatever it is, and it's to obviously highlight some of the better tools on there, or not the better tools, maybe the newer tools or whatever. But what out with the kind of usual, keyword research and all that kind of stuff, what tools are you playing with other than Market Explorer, some of the newer ones?
I mean, Market Explorer is one I've been doing a bit more research around. Obviously, the keyword magic tool, particularly when you're trying to look around content around coronavirus. It is sometimes hard to find trends and insights, and I've managed to break the tool. Yeah, so there's probably sort of a handful of tools I use regularly. I've obviously set up projects where I'm tracking keywords, I'm running regular audits, I'm checking backlinks for link toxicity reports. So obviously, using the project reporting as well.
Yeah.
A very good question from Simon. That's probably something we need to run it via the SEMrush team. They'll be able to answer you about Google Shopping versus Traffic Jet.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to give any insights to that, Simon.
Google Shopping is great, and it's also now available for free for organic as well. So switch it on if you can.
Take full advantage. We all like free stuff. Traffic analytics is very useful. Omi, I'd done a webinar on that last month, I think it was, and yeah, I was traffic analytics was actually a tool I'd never actually played with, but the level of data that can be gleaned from that is outrageous. So that's a new one that I've started playing with recently on SEMrush as well. But yeah, I think it's one of those cases where people have a look around on the navigation, the left-hand side. There's always new things, new ideas, and stuff like that, so that you can dissect all of this data in an easy to understand format. They're just laying it out nicer and everything else. So yeah, it's all going really well with SEMrush, and hopefully they continue to evolve. We sadly don't have a huge amount of questions coming in today. I'm not sure why that would be, but if you've got any last questions, guys, we've got 3 minutes left. If there isn't any, we will bid you farewell, because it may be the case that it's a public holiday and people are all enjoying beer and sunshine and everything else. So if nothing else comes through, David, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, they like what you're saying and maybe want to talk to you, have a beer with you or whatever, where is the best place to find you?
I mean, Twitter's probably the best place. Yeah, I'm fairly active on Twitter, and I'm happy to engage with anyone. So yeah, reach out on Twitter. David Iwanow, sorry.
Yeah, David Iwanow. Yeah, he's on Twitter regularly. Just beware of the trolling that you might get if you become his friend. I'm only kidding. Great guy. And thank you very much for taking time out to show us what you're doing and giving that presentation. And obviously, a big thank you to everyone who's watching today. It's been hopefully successful, and we've helped a few people, and we will catch you all on the next webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Cheers.